First, I'd like to thank Jerry for his brilliant, inquisitive mind, and Esther for allowing and being such a love, and for you in our lives. Life is so good, and it's getting better and better. I have a question that will come in the end of a little experience I'd like to share with you. I had to have a root. I would say that this is a joyous root canal experience, because it was. I had to go have root canal, so I pre-paved the whole thing, and I knew exactly how it was going to take place. I was in peace, I was in my well-being, which I am most of the time, and I knew that it would be painless, and it would only take 20 minutes. So we go to this doctor's office, beautiful office, my husband and I was so delicious inside of myself. And the nurse comes and brings papers to fill out, and I did. And on the other side, it said that some of the drugs that they would put on you, it could be fatal. And at that minute, I had such a contrast experience, which I don't have so much, that I was beside myself with such an awful contrasting experience to my beingness.
They really know how to line you up, don't they?
Yes. Tremendous. So I asked my husband, I said, wow, I can't believe that this is happening. And what do you think? And he says, well, I'll support you in anything you want to do, but I wouldn't do it. And I thought, thanks a lot. So I said, I filled it up and gave it, and I was sitting there in a space of not peace. And I thought to myself, okay, I know very well what to do. The next best thought, and so forth, because I've been studying you. And for the life of me, Abraham, I couldn't find one positive next thought. I could not find it. And I sat there, and I closed my eyes. I went to Source, and I found some peace in there, but I couldn't find a thought. And then it was blank, blank, blank in my mind. And a page, a beloved page of your book, page 14, Ask and It Is Given, read itself to me, because I had no thought. Can I please say that? Thank you. The page came to me and said to me, can you understand how much well-being is flowing to you? Do you understand how much orchestration of circumstances and events on your behalf is available to you? How adored you are? Do you understand how the creation of this planet and the creation of the universe fits together for the perfection of your experience? Beloved you are, how blessed you are, how adored you are. Well-being is lined up outside your door. It is flowing. Just feel your way into allowing yourself to receive it. So he read this to me. I got up. The nurse took me to the room, and there was a table, and I lay down on a table, and they give me a pillow. When I entered the room, Abraham, I was in a state of grace, if I may say this. I could see things were different. I see monitors, the television, the X-ray machines, and there were all kinds of instruments and shots and things there waiting for me. And I looked at it, and I was in such a wonderful appreciation that Source had orchestrated all of that just for me. I felt so empowered and so in joy and in love. I lay down, and the doctor come, and I told him I have had a root canal in Brazil when I was a young person. He said, Brazil? He said, I was in Brazil for 2 years, 10 years ago. And I said, oh, so you were a missionary for your church? He said, yes, and I adore the Brazilians, I adore Brazil, where I was born and raised. And so that was this wonderful moment with them. I lay down, he got started, and the nurse came. And as they lay down in this well-beingness, I sensed all the inner beings, all the non-physical beings that work with me all my life. They just came around and filled the room all around. My husband was sitting in a corner. There was hardly room for him because all these wonderful beings were around. And I felt joy, 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 in such a delicious joy. I was in such a blissful state that he did the whole thing. The nurses start telling jokes. The doctors start laughing, I laughing, my husband laughing. We were laughing, and my mouth is open with all that stuff. And we were laughing, laughing in a joyous, joyous expression. When it was all done, I sat up, and I turned around, and I told the doctor, I say, I must tell you this from my heart. I so appreciate you and what you did. I'm in deep gratitude for you and the nurse. It was such a wonderful experience. And he looked at me with big blue eyes and he went, oh my Lord, he says, nobody has ever said this to me. When people come to me, they hate me and they hate what I do. And I said, I'm so sincere on this because it was like a holy instant, this whole experience. And we left. I hugged the nurse, I hugged the doctor. My husband went to pay, and pay he did. And we hugged everybody, and we laughed, and I was just in this delicious space. We get in the car, I sat down, and I say, I told you, honey, it would be only 20 minutes. He turned the ignition, and it was 4 hours and 15 minutes. Now my question. So, what is the mechanics? What happened? I felt, I pre-paved, I felt the whole thing only took 20 minutes of perfection of joy. I get in the car and 4 hours and 50 minutes went by. Did I compress time? What happened in this, the time squeezed together?
Well, there are a number of things we want to say to you about that. First, in response to your last very pointed question, is time is perceptual.
Yes.
And as you perceive it to be is the way that it is. In other words, your husband undoubtedly had a different view of the passing of that same amount of time.
Yes.
So it isn't that the time actually changed, but your perception of it is what it is. The most significant thing that we want to say to you, and it'll be helpful to everyone who's listening in, is that you had done a good job of pre-paving and coming into alignment even before you got there. So the alignment was well underway. Then you had that momentary upstream experience. But all that did, in other words, as you read the disclaimer and worried about what they were saying and gotcha, all that happened is because you had gotten yourself moving so powerfully in your stream, when you turned upstream, of course it would feel violent. In other words, that's logical. And then when you sat and could not find a downstream thought, you did manage to do what we've been talking about all day here today. You did manage to quiet your mind. And as you quieted your mind, you stopped your resistant trek upstream. The stream turned you into the current, and at the already swift moving current, along you went so rapidly that you actually had that sort of vision experience where something that was perfectly in alignment with what you were seeking actually occurred to you. Now, none of that could happen without coming into utter alignment with who you really are. So the best way we can say this to you, and the briefest way, is you allowed the energy of who you really are to dominate your experience while you were in that chair. In other words, your inner being was the consciousness that was most present as you were having that experience. And that's why well-being was the dominant experience. You can do that under any and all conditions. You can do that in arguments with your spouse. You can do that in discomfort with your work. You can do that in litigation with another. But most of you don't do it unless the stakes were high. And that's the thing that we want to talk about here. You had deliberately brought yourself into alignment because it mattered. So perhaps someone should write a book that says, when you care as much as you do when you're on the brink brink of a root canal, it will work better for you. In other words, if you focus more powerfully. We've been talking about how if you want something and you allow it, and you want it and you allow it, and you want it and allow it, then it is. But sometimes, because you like the drama of it, you really don't allow it, which makes you really want it, and you really don't allow it, which makes you really want it. And this was a situation where you had clearly gotten the energy going. You were only out of alignment a little bit, just enough to feel yourself in it. It was the momentum of your pre-paving that served you mostly, and your allowance of your alignment with Source that gave you that blissful experience. And you know you have really achieved a state of coming into alignment easily when you can do it on the brink and in the middle of a root canal. In other words, if you can do it under those conditions, for heaven's sakes, you could do it under all conditions, but most of you wouldn't try as hard under normal conditions as you would during a root canal. That's the point that you're helping us make, and it's such a powerful point. So you want to leave this seminar saying, I want everything to be as important as a root canal so that I will use my power of focus. And we say, well, just play it however you can. Be as specific as you can be and still feel good.
So when the book came into my mind, and that page 14 that I adore, because I am adored, came to me spontaneously. So that was Source also, right? Source came in ready to me, that page.
But it was more than that. It wasn't Source coming to you. It was you being Source.
Oh, okay.
You see what we're getting at?
Yes.
When you allow yourself that blending, you are that. That's why your doctor was bowled over with the sincerity of your appreciation. It's really a rare time when Source gives you a hug and thanks you for what you do.
Oh, that was so sweet. Oh, that is so beautiful. And another question, because I feel the non-physical beings around me a lot of the time. Get goosebumps, and it just feels so wonderful. I meditate twice a day, every day for many, many, many years. And as I said to meditate, I feel this wonderfulness. Are they, like they came into that room, are they my inner beings, my non-physical beings, or is that you, Abraham?
Well, again, in the quantifying, it is your. We don't want to use the word support team because support is usually upstream. We don't want to use fairies of the universe because it's frivolous. Right. We don't really want to use the word God because it freaks you out because you've already got attitudes about that. Yes. But it is all of that. It is the Source energy. It is the you that is really you. But we want you to understand that that's around you all the time, no matter what. The thing that we want to talk about is, why were you aware of it? Why are you aware of it? And you're aware of it when you're in vibrational proximity to it, you see. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's separate from you. It's something that is you when you get in that vibrational frequency. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yes, most of the time. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.